When you play the guitar as long as I have, you pick up some techniques, some tricks, some tips and ways of improving your playing that you don't necessarily get when you're a beginner guitar player. So these are things that I was certainly never shown by my guitar teacher, and I reckon you probably weren't shown, but if I'm wrong, put in the comments which ones your teacher did show you. So I thought I would just share with you 5 things that I bet your guitar teacher didn't show you. And I'm going to tell you where I did learn these from, so you can go and check out these sources. So the first one is the 3-note per string scale, but I'm not going to talk about the left hand because I'm assuming most intermediate guitar players know the fingerings. I'm going to talk about the right hand and how to improve the speed. So if we take, for example, the C major, we got 8, 10, 12, 8, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 13. And then on the way back, just the reverse. Now that's a pattern that most guitar players, when they reach a certain level, will be familiar with. But I want to talk about the right hand and how to build up speed in playing this. So it's still going to use complete alternate picking. However, what you do with the angle of the pick is what's important. So I'm going to exaggerate this when I show you. So focus on this hand. So as you'll notice, the tip of the pick when I start is pointing up. And as I move to the next string, I'm going to gradually move so the pick is pointing down. I'm really exaggerating here, but okay, now doing that movement allows you to escape the strings, because if you didn't, you'd be here. So then you've got to jump to come to the next string. However, turning that pick allows you to escape from this position in between. Now, you want to practice it slowly. I mean, if you're going to start here, that's fine. So you'd normally start with the pick pointing up. This is actually called a downward pick slant because the round part of the pick is pointing down. So the technical name for that is a downward pick slant, and you'd normally start with downward pick slant, move to an up, now you could start on a upward pick slant. Does exactly the same thing. It still helps you escape from that locked in position being in between two strings. So that's the first tip. And I got that tip from Troy Grady when he interviewed Michael Angelo Battio, who plays extreme fast picked 3-note per string scales. So the next two techniques, and I'm still working on these because I'm new to them. The first one is lazy first finger, and I learnt this from Tom Quayle. And what this is where your first finger just stays on the fretboard, and this is the lazy part. So let's play it again, a 3-note per string scale. This time let's play it in A. Now you'll notice here that my first finger, when I'm playing the second and third note on each string, my first finger just stays where it is. And when I'm descending, it also stays there, until it's time to move on to the next string. And I played like this for years. Now, it does a couple of things. First of all, I think it slows you up because there's more tension in your hand when you're like this than if you just release that finger. Now there's no tension. And you can feel it. If you just put your first finger down and play those 3 notes, you'll feel it. If you go, there's no tension at all. So what I'm practicing now and working on slowly is just lifting that finger every time it's not being played. Now I'm only lifting it a tiny bit just so that it's not fretting the note, but sometimes I will keep it on the string so that it's still muting the notes. So there, it's still touching, but it's just going to help stopping that note, that string from ringing out. The other benefit of this is when you are descending in scales or licks or riffs or whatever, what I would always, or not always, but often get is that kind of ringing where I haven't cleared this high E string with my pinky, whereas when I lift that finger off, that doesn't happen. So this is the second little technique I've got, which is when you're practicing, whether it's riffs or scales or anything where you don't need this finger on the fretboard, you lift it up. And what you probably find is you get less tension in your hand, you'll probably be quicker, and also you won't get any of those nasty ringing out double notes that you don't want. So the next thing that I'm working on, again, which is quite a new thing for me, and it's not really a technique or a trick, it's just something you should probably do anyway, but I never did, is keeping your fingers as close to the fretboard as you can when you're playing. As opposed to, and you can see the difference there in my hand. It is a big difference in the height of the string. And I learnt this from, not as a specific lesson, but just from watching a guy called Rick Graham. And there's another fella you should check out, who's probably the fastest guitarist I've ever seen. His name is Roy Marchbank, and I've never seen a player like that guy. But anyway, Rick Graham, absolute monster, and Roy Marchbank, absolute monster squared. And what you'll notice about those guys, they don't really lift their fingers off the fretboard at all. It's a minuscule amount. And I just thought that was another one which would be useful. There's a great classical guitarist who does a lesson on YouTube about this exact thing. His name escapes me right now, but I shall put his name just here, and I'll put a link as well where you can see the video where he discusses that. So next up is tuning in fourths. Now this is something I have only just sort of started messing around with. And I learnt this again from Tom Quayle and Alex Hutchings. Now guitars are tuned, the E and the A is tuned to a fourth, so E to A, E, F, G, A, D to G, D, E, F, G, G to B, G, A, B, there's a third, and then we're back to fourths, B to E, B, C, D, E, right? So let's say I wanted to play an E minor arpeggio. Now you can't play it the same way across 3 strings. because of the tuning. However, if I tune to fourths, so the beauty of fourths, all the patterns are the same. If you want to play major, so because I've been playing guitar a long time, I'm not going to completely change my tuning to fourths, but I am playing with it and seeing how I get on. But if you're fairly early in your guitar journey, it's something that's definitely worth considering, because when you start learning intervals and different chord shapes, it's easier because everything is the same across the whole neck. And the last technique I bet your guitar teacher's never shown you is how to find the major 7, the minor 7, the dominant 7 and the minor 7 flat 5 chord whenever you can find a root note. So if you were to pick E, for example, and I will put a link to the tabs so you can get all these chords. So E, for example, here would be an E major 7. Now here would be an E major 7. Here's the root. Here's this one, the root. Then if you were to come up here, here's the root. If you're here, there's an E major 7. And you want to do that for the top 4 strings and the middle 4 strings. And I say you want to learn major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, minor 7 flat 5. If we do dominant 7, here's an E dominant 7, E dominant 7, E dominant 7, E dominant 7. And again you got the roots. And then you would do the same thing for the middle 4 strings. So E major 7, E major 7, E major 7, another E major 7, and E major 7. So I will put these chords and the minor 7 and the dominant 7 and the minor 7 flat 5 into a tab for you, so you've got all those. So those are the 5 things that I bet your guitar teacher never showed you, and I found really useful, or definitely something that's intriguing and something that I want to work on, and I thought I would share them. So once more, the pick angle when you're playing 3 notes per string, keeping your fingers as close to the fretboard as you can, lazy first finger, tuning in fourths, and finally being able to play any major 7, dominant 7, minor 7 flat 5 chord as soon as you can see the root note, and picking the top 4 strings, middle 4 strings. Hope you found that video useful. If you did, make sure you give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.